I thank all of you for being here, and I'd like to just make several comments and try to give you the political and legislative lay of the land here, and then I'd like to respond to any questions or comments or insults that you might have. In Arizona, not just nationwide, but in Arizona, over 70% of our citizens, Republican, Democrat, and Independent, support comprehensive immigration reform with the proviso that people that are here illegally learn English, pay back taxes, get to the back of the line behind those who have waited legally for status. And remember, this proposal is very tough. It's 10 years. It's 10 years before eligibility before green card. Thousands of dollars in fees to be paid. And I would say to this argument that, well, they broke the law when they came here. Yes, they broke the law. There are very few people in this room besides Glenn that has never broken a law. And so, yes, they broke the law. But does that mean they should be permanently punished? Does that mean that 11 million people live in the shadows of this country forever? Does that mean that we have a situation where they cannot be contributing members of our society? And I would remind you again, we are all, unless there's Native Americans here, a nation of immigrants. And that nation of immigrants has come to this country, grabbed the bottom rung, and done the hardest jobs and the most difficult jobs, and moved up the ladder of success. And I would argue, when you look at what wave after wave of immigrant that has come to this country has made us the greatest nation in the world with a constant infusion of new blood. The Hispanic wave is just the latest. There may be another one sometime in the future, for all I know. And I would argue that when you look at the contributions that has been made, they have been pretty substantial. For example, the percentage of members in the armed forces of the United States today is larger than the percentage of our population. That's just one manifestation of the many contributions that have been made. Obviously, small business and all that. Now, let me just point out to you, according to the Congressional Budget Office, those who argue that it might hurt our economy, that somehow unleashing this workforce into the population of 11 million people would somehow be harmful. According to the Congressional Budget Office, the Senate bill would reduce the budget deficit by $850 billion over the next 20 years. It would add $300 billion to the Social Security Trust Fund. According to the regional economic model, this bill, with a pathway to citizenship and expanded visa programs, would boost Arizona's economic output by $616 million and create 8,016 jobs by the year 2014. Now, these aren't my or Republican estimates. These are legitimate economic indicators. And the increase by 2045, the increase to the Arizona's economy would be $5.5 billion in 2012. A bill like the one we passed in the Senate would increase the total personal income for Arizona families by $2.5 billion in 2020. Now, for those who argue that you don't have a secure border, they are right. Our border is not secure, but it's a lot more secure than it was. We have spent tens of billions of dollars. Right now, we're spending $18 billion a year on border security alone. When we passed amnesty in 1986, we had 4,000 Border Patrol agents. We now have 21,000 Border Patrol agents. And the key to border security, and by the way, drugs, which we can discuss if we want, is still a huge problem, but that's got a lot to do with demand. Demand creates supply. I think all of us here at the chamber would agree. So the key to border security, of course, is increased fencing and increased border patrol, which is fine with me, but it's technology. We developed technology in Iraq and Afghanistan. I promise you we can surveil the entire border. We have that technological capability now with sensors and with drones and with other capabilities that we developed. There's a thing called a Vader radar that will not only detect people, but it will track them back to where they came from. That's remarkable when you think about it. So can we get our border secure? Yes, we've proven that in the Yuma sector. The Yuma sector, by anybody's estimate, is secure. That's the good news. The bad news is the Tucson sector is not. And Tucson sector continues to be a major corridor, the major drug trafficking corridor across our whole southern border. So the bill would I just want to mention to you, for those of you that say, well, we're not securing the border, $4.5 billion technology for cameras, sensors, drones, and towers, as recommended by the Border Patrol, 20,000 additional agents, 3,500 customs officers to facilitate back and forth traffic on our border, 350 miles of additional fencing, tripled the funding for Operation Streamline, which, as you know, is mandatory prosecutions for people who are repeat crossers. It create 112,000 annual visas for agriculture workers, 200,000 visas for low-skilled workers, green card for graduates of U.S. universities with an advanced degree in a STEM field. Over half of the students who are in the STEM field, science, technologies, engineering, and mathematics, postgraduate in the United States today, over half of them are from another country. If those people from India and China or wherever they came from want a chance to stay and work in the United States with those advanced degrees, we should let them do so. And finally, there's another aspect of this that I want to mention that's vital. Right now, I can take you to Nogales and we can buy a birth certificate for anybody here for $40, okay? And that person brings that forged birth certificate and goes to an employer here in Arizona, and that employer accepts that birth certificate. So, and I would remind you that 40% of the people who are in this country illegally did not cross our border illegally. They came on a valid visa and overstayed the visa. So the key to it is E-Verify. E-Verify, so that there is a system where anybody who comes to an employer must have a valid identification system, and I'd be glad to go through the details of how to set it up. And that employer, if that employer hires someone without that documentation, that employer is going to be punished. We've got to dry up the demand, whether it be people coming with a valid visa or whether they be coming across our border illegally. Why should we have 11 million people living in the shadows who would otherwise contribute enormously to our country and our society? And for those who want to do nothing, my response to that is, that's de facto amnesty. Nobody believes you're going to round up 11 million people and deport them. So that's de facto amnesty. And none of us believe that de facto amnesty is a satisfactory situation. So I appeal to not only to your business sense, which is obviously critical and important, but also we're a Judeo-Christian principled nation. And as I started out, we've had wave after wave. We used to come, and the lady that held her lamp beside the golden door and made America what it is today. And we need to get this issue done and behind us, and especially, if I might say, in the state of Arizona, which has faced so much controversy and so much publicity that it would be great if we saw the entire Arizona delegation support this comprehensive immigration reform. And I'm proud of Arizona, and I'm proud for representing the people of Arizona, and that I've had the honor to do so. I'd feel it even greater honor if we supported this comprehensive immigration reform and took the lead in doing so. I thank you all for coming. I'd like to respond to any questions or comments or insults that you might have. Thank you very much.